Ever wondered why some people, especially narcissistic men, keep making the same mistakes over and over again, but never seem to learn from them? This is a question that puzzles many of us. It's like watching a movie on repeat, where the protagonist, despite the consequences, keeps making the same poor choices. Take, for instance, John, a man who has had a string of failed relationships. He's charming and charismatic, but his overwhelming need for validation and control inevitably leads to discord and heartbreak. Despite the fallout, John never seems to grasp the role his behavior plays in these breakups. Instead, he jumps straight into another relationship, repeating the same patterns. His inability to learn from his past mistakes and alter his behavior is a classic example of narcissism. Narcissistic individuals, you see, are often blind to their own faults. They are stuck in a repetitive cycle, unable to break free. This recurring cycle, as you see, is a clear sign of narcissism. Have you noticed how some individuals never take responsibility for their actions, always finding someone else to blame? This is a common trait among narcissistic individuals. They are masters at avoiding responsibility and shifting blame onto others. Consider the case of John, a textbook narcissist. Whenever issues surface in his relationship, he never admits fault. Instead, he constantly blames his partner, twisting the narrative to paint himself as the victim. If there's a disagreement, it's because his partner doesn't understand him. If there's a conflict, it's because his partner is too sensitive. John's pattern of behavior is a classic example of narcissistic blame shifting and excuse making. It's a defense mechanism, a way to protect their inflated ego and avoid any form of self-reflection or growth. But remember, it's not about the truth of the situation, but rather, it's about their need to maintain an image of perfection, blame shifting, and constant excuses, another hallmark of narcissistic behavior. Are you familiar with the term gaslighting? It's a manipulative tactic often used by narcissists to avoid accountability. This psychological maneuver is a way of warping reality, making the other person doubt their own memory, perception, or sanity. Imagine this scenario. A man repeatedly arrives home late without explanation. When confronted, he denies it ever happened, insisting you must be imagining things, or worse, that you're going crazy. This is gaslighting. But why do narcissists resort to such tactics? It's simple. By making you question your own reality, they are able to divert attention away from their own behavior and mistakes. It's a cunning way of avoiding accountability. The narcissist positions themselves as the reliable one, the voice of reason, while painting you, the partner, as irrational or unstable. Through this, they maintain control and power in the relationship. Gaslighting is a powerful tool in the narcissist's arsenal, used to evade responsibility and manipulate others. Now that we understand the tactics, how can we recognize these red flags and identify a lack of personal growth in a narcissistic individual? The signs are often subtle yet consistent. One might notice a repetitive cycle of mistakes with no signs of learning or change. This could manifest as recurring relationship issues or repeated failures in work or personal projects, seemingly without any self-reflection or improvement. Consider a scenario where an individual consistently blames others for their own mistakes. They shift the blame, make excuses, and avoid taking responsibility. There's a persistent pattern of error, yet they don't seem to learn or grow from these experiences. This lack of personal growth is a significant red flag. It indicates an unwillingness to self-reflect, to learn, and to improve. They may even resort to gaslighting tactics, manipulating others' perceptions to avoid accountability. Recognizing these red flags can empower us to make informed decisions in our relationships. So, how can women build resilience when dealing with narcissistic partners who refuse to change? Let's imagine Sarah. She's been in a relationship with a narcissistic man for years. She's tired of the cycle, the blame shifting, the lack of growth. What can she do? First, Sarah educates herself. She reads, she talks to professionals, she learns about narcissism. Knowledge, after all, is power. With this understanding, she becomes aware of the red flags, the gaslighting tactics. She sees the patterns. Next, Sarah sets boundaries. She decides what behavior she will tolerate and what she won't. This isn't easy, but it's crucial. She communicates these boundaries firmly, without room for manipulation. Lastly, Sarah stands up for herself. She becomes her own advocate. She builds a support network of friends, family, and professionals. She knows she's not alone. Remember, strength comes from understanding, setting boundaries, and standing up for oneself in the face of unyielding narcissistic behavior.